Hello everybody, and welcome to Rest and Reason. I'm RP the Red Panda, and today we're going to be doing another Games Fixed video, this time for El Grande. Now, El Grande I would consider to be a really great game, but even great games can have flaws, and in the case of El Grande, its flaw is not really its mechanics. Its mechanics seem really well designed. But before we get into all of my problems with the game, let's start off with the main feel and the main mechanic, which actually are the same thing in this game. They are both area majority. You see, this game doesn't really have a feel because it doesn't really have a theme. And so its feel is really just the mechanics of trying to have the biggest group of people in a territory, area majority. That's what you're going for. And so that is actually highly problematic, and that's exactly where my main problem lies. There is no theme to this game. And no theme, to many people, they'll go, well, why does that matter? Why does it matter that there's no theme if the mechanics are good? Don't we play games for the mechanics? And I want to point out two flaws to that. First of all, some people don't play games for the mechanics, they play them for the theme, because they are an escape. It's just like with a book for good writing. Some people like to read good writing, even if the story's not really their genre, but most people are going to prefer something good writing and in their genre. And the hard part with a game that has no theme is it's like a book that has no genre. It's like an essay. Some people are going to like it, but most people are going to find it dry and boring. The other problem with it is trying to sell playing this game to other people. Yes, for mechanical people, you can come up and say, here are the mechanics, you're going to enjoy it. But for most other people, the first thing you're going to say to them is, it's this type of game. We're going to go conquer this. We're going to go have fun with that. And the problem with this game is, I don't even know how I would describe it. That's why I started with the main feel being area majority, because it literally doesn't have a feel aside from its mechanics. So, that's the main problem. I'd love to know in the comments, do you agree with this main problem? Do you think it's a problem? Or are you one of those people who just loves mechanics? And if this was a completely abstract game, where you just put cubes on, like, I don't know, a piece of paper, you'd still find this game amazing. Let me know down in the comments, and I would love to have a conversation with you. Now, let's go into my fix. So my fix on this game is actually a complete re-theme of the game, and I would re-theme it and call it The Commission. Now, The Commission is about the Sicilian Mafia 5 families, and these 5 families were the scourge of New York from the 1930s to the 1960s, and some people believe even to this day that they are still working in the shadows since the court case that brought them down, supposedly. So, what would happen in this is that the king will be changed to the chairman of the commission, the grandes will be changed to the bosses, the caballeros will be changed to the soldatas, which are the foot soldiers of the mafia, the castle will be changed to a network, and the people you put in the castle will now be associates, which were groups that were not initiated into the mafia, but that they had as part of their network that they could use in case they needed them for mostly their dirty work. Now I have an offer for you that you can't refuse, and that's to push that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button, make sure to show that you're appreciating this video and this re-theme. Let's go ahead into what this fix, what this re-theme is going to look like. So, it's going to mean a new board. The new board is going to look like this. It's the New York metropolitan area. It's the 3 boroughs, and then you have the 2 boroughs that I actually split in half, Queens and Brooklyn. And then I added Long Island and New Jersey. And this is actually really accurate to where these groups were working at the time. They were the primary places that these 5 families were working. Now, there are new factions, of course. There are 5 family gangs, and each of these 5 family gangs I actually gave a boss trait to. And the boss traits are going to be interesting little powers. For example, one of the boss traits is that they start the game as the chairman, which I'll explain a little bit later. So that's a very powerful beginning. They start the game as one of the most powerful things in the game. So there are other powers, however, that allow you not to have soldiers taken away from you on the board for a certain turn, or not to have them taken from your special reserve, which I call the recruits, instead of your court this time. So these powers are going to change up the game, but if you wanted to, you could always just play the normal El Grande rules where you don't have those powers. I would probably call these the advanced rules in my rule set. So let's go ahead into what the new mechanics look like. Well, first off, instead of it being 6 to 9 turns, I'm looking at a game of 4 to 8 turns. Now, the only reason I actually made this game shorter is because I'm trying to represent the 5-year cycles of the commission. So this would be 4 turns, each of them 2.5 years, and you'd score every 2 turns. So you'd still be scoring twice in the small short game, and you'd be scoring 4 times in the long game. Now, this will mean more scoring, and this will mean more competition and more speed to the game, but I actually think that this will increase the enjoyability of the game, because you're not going to have to wait very long between when you're doing stuff and when you're scoring. It's also going to lead to a lot more gutsier plays and bigger moves to try to make sure you control those early parts. The second thing is, after each different commission, which is what I call the scoring period, it's the commission period because that's when they would meet, you are going to elect a chairman. So as a group, you all have to unanimously decide who is going to be the chairman. If one person dissents, they will have to discard one of their influence cards. So you don't want to not agree with the rest of the group. If you're the 1 or 2 people holding out against the majority, you are going to have to give up cards. So make sure that you unanimously agree, or else you will pay the price. And when you choose the chairman, what you're going to do is you're going to take the king pawn and you're going to put it beside your Grande that you guys chose. So Bill is the Luciano family. We all chose that Bill and the Luciano family will be the chairman, so we put it next to his Grande. Now, whenever his Grande moves around, you are actually going to move the king around because his Grande is the chairman. Now, the one final change is that you're actually going to be placing your soldatas, your caballeros in the original game, next to your bosses, not next to the chairman. This makes more sense because, obviously speaking, your bosses are the ones who are getting a group of people around them to fight for them, not the chairman. However, the chairman is still going to be very powerful to have the chairman position because people won't be able to put guys on the place that you're standing. The final change is that the 5th stack of actions, as we all know, is only one action: move the king. In this case, since the chairman is a Grande, is the boss, you're actually just going to move both the Grande unit, the boss unit, and the chairman position at the same time. So it's going to do both. It basically works the same. The only difference is you're moving a Grande unit with it. And I'd love to again hear in the comments if you guys agree or disagree with this whole idea. And if you think that this should be pitched to anybody, I would love to hear that as well. Let's get into the scores. So the original score for this game was a 3.47 out of 5. And that's actually a pretty great score. It's a silver recliner, and it just barely lost to Liberté. If you want to check out this link, it will show you that video where it lost to Liberté. And it did beat Axis and Allies, if you want to check out that link to Axis and Allies. So it did beat some games, and it barely lost to some games. The reason it lost to Liberté was because of the theme. With Liberté, it's super easy for me to walk up and say, this game is really fun, and you are going to be the person, the manipulators behind the French Revolution. With El Grande, it's so much harder for me to sell El Grande. I have to walk up and go, okay, well, it's got all these really cool mechanics, but for most people, that's not going to sell them on it. So that's what ended up making the small difference between the two. They were very close in how much they scored. They were only like 0.2 points off of each other. With my fixed, I would give it a 4.07 out of 5. Now, this is without an actual reprint. I actually am hoping to propose this idea to a publisher, to the publisher Zeman Games, and see if they might actually want to do a reprint with a retheme, because I think that this is a really good idea. I think that this would be fun for people who like El Grande, because it's a big enough change to El Grande that it would be worth buying. I think it would be fun for people who have backed off because it didn't seem thematically fun. This theme of the 5 families, to me, seems like it's going to really add a lot. And that's why, even with my not so great looking pieces, like my map and my various factions, they're not real pretty. I can't make them real pretty. I'm not great at art. I'm not great at necessarily having the sources I need to make it look pretty. But if Zeman Games were to do this, the art would go up as well. Not just the theme. But as you saw, the theme gave it 0.6 points higher than before, because just getting the theme to be better makes this game more universal, makes this game easier to sell, and significantly raises its thing on mechanical theme, and will help people remember the rules, because the rules will make sense mechanically by how you play the game. It makes sense to put your guys next to the boss. It makes sense that the king changes from boss to boss. It makes sense that these guys have these powers because of their backstory. If this were to be done by Zeman Games, I believe that this could get all the way up to a 4.42 out of 5. And that's mainly because the art would also go up. And the original game, it depends on which version of the game you get. I know some of the games have slightly better art, but my problem with them is you either have cubes or you have very generic meeples, neither of which are very exciting for a war game. Nowadays, I expect a war game to have good pieces that make you feel like what's happening is happening. So El Grande really just doesn't do that. If they were to make a reprint, I would encourage them to use little plastic soldiers, so that way, or soldatas, with Tommy guns and stuff, so you'd be putting them out, and that would just feel so much more thematic, so much more fun. Little things like that could make a huge difference in how much the game feels like you're actually out there as the mafia controlling New York City in the shadows. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button, and if you would like to support this channel and what we do, please go over to our Patreon. Even $1 a month obviously will make a huge difference, and we really appreciate it. And as always, thank you so much for joining us today on Rest and Reason.